pine needles crunched differently here, softer, like walking on damp carpet. I'd hiked this stretch of the Umpqua a dozen times, but never noticed the way the light slants through the ferns after 4 p.m. Thin and too yellow, like old cellophane. My water filter jammed at noon, my map fluttered into a ravine, and the trail forks I'd memorized, gone. Replaced by identical clusters of hemlock, their roots knotted into doorways. The clearing felt familiar. A flat patch of moss, a ring of stones charred black. No fireband sticker, no beer caps, nothing. Just a smell, metallic like a struck match. Dusk came early. The thermometer read 52° FF, but my breath fogged. I kept the rainfly off to watch the stars. None appeared. No crickets either, just a thick wool silence. I woke to the zipper. Not the tent. The bag, my sleeping bag, trembling as something pulled the tab millimeter by millimeter. Half asleep, I swatted at it. My fingers brushed cold wax. 3 tiny handprints, palm up, glistening on the nylon. Beeswax, maybe. I licked one. Blood, cold and iron, thick. The whisper came as I unzipped the tent at dawn for a piss. Soft, sing-song, brittle as a dried leaf. Don't. Not from the woods. From my throat. Found the tent again at noon, my gear undisturbed, the blood now brown. And the ring of stones? Facing inward this time, like seats. The stones were watching now. I counted 5, 7, 11 numbers slithered, wooden stick. Each had a notch carved at chin height, for tying something or someone. The moss beneath them felt spongy, like newly turned soil. Shadows bent where branches didn't. A twig snapped to my left. I spun, and the sound hopped right. No birds, no wind. But low tones vibrated in my molars. Subsonic hymns felt more than heard. I peed on a Douglas fir, counting to 30. The stream steamed. My watch said 78° FF. Frost still feathered the bark where I'd touched it. The handprints multiplied. Sticky, but never drying. My scalp itched, scratched, and came away with strands of hair webbed between fingers like black lace. At the 3rd stream crossing, I caught a flicker, a silhouette too still between 2 alders, shoulders sloped like melted wax. Hello? It wasn't my voice. Deeper, frayed, a stranger's plea. The thing didn't breathe, just tilted its head, clay, slow. The air thickened where it stood, warping light like a heat mirage. My fingers found the tiny handprint on my collarbone, fresh and slick. GPS died. Compass spun lazy circles. The tent materialized again at dusk, zippers all sealed with tufts of lichen. Inside, my sleeping bag, flayed open, stuffing, arranged in a nest. Something small and curved gleamed in the center, a baby tooth. When I prodded it, the tent flaps hissed shut. The tooth pulsed warm. My tongue probed the hollow in my gums. Still there, still whole. Blood thrummed behind my eyes. The tent wall sagged inward, knuckles pressed against the nylon, puckering the fabric with shapes too many jointed to be hands. A wet click echoed like a tongue loosening from a dry palate. I cracked my knuckles. Habit. The sound echoed back a half-second later. Perfect mimicry. Frost spiraled across the tent floor. It crawled up my boots, veins of ice knitting through laces. The tooth drew a bead of blood in my palm. Footsteps matched my pulse. 7. Pause. 11. Pause. 5. A raw musk seeped through the tent's seams, decay and clover. Reflection in my water bottle showed shadows pooling under my eyes. Hollows deepening. Hair thinning. Straw rearranged into cursive, you left first. Lichen-sealed zippers groaned open, inviting. Stones formed a ring. A frayed rope swayed from nothing. The silhouette leaned through it, fractured. 2-dimensional. The tooth hummed in my palm. The rope curled like a question mark. My breath hitched. Since when did it bend toward me? Shadows licked the back of my neck, viscous as oil. The tooth's hum grew symphonic, vibrating my molars, my ribs, the half-dried blood in my boot. A whisper. Almost time. Not in my ears. In the gaps between knuckles, the marrow, the silhouette tilted, blinked. Except it had no eyes, just a shutter where a face should fracture. My reflection in the water bottle trembled. Younger now. 9, maybe 10. Missing a front tooth, hair cropped short after the lice. You left first. Memories blurred. Tall grass, a dare, laughter sharp as creek ice. A name? It dissolved like sugar on the tongue. The rope creaked, not hemp, sinew, still damp. When I stepped back, the ground gave like cartilage. Frost split my laces, roots tangling my ankles, the silhouette's edges blurred, smudging the air like charcoal. Who's there? My voice too high. A child's. Silence. Then a wet snap. The tent pole splintered inward, cold poured through, carrying the scent of turned earth and sour milk. The tooth seared my palm. Melted frost dripped from my chin. Almost, the shadows chorused. One step, another. The rope swung wide, beckoning. I pressed the tooth to the hollow in my gums. It slotted in with a click. The silhouette stepped into the tent. Identical. Ragged braids, grubby overalls. Me at 8, grinning with a gap-toothed scream. The air curdled. Her braids swung heavy with creek mud. Not reflection memory, no, here, breathing my air. Her grin split wider, jaw unhinging wetly as a snake's. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth, fused. She pointed at the rope. A third shadow moved behind her, tall, angular, warping the tent wall like heat haze. Her fingers grazed my wrist. Cold as December, well water. Blisters bloomed where she touched me, translucent, wriggling. Beetle larvae. Don't you remember? Her voice was mine, yes, but warped, played backward, syllables cracking. Frost climbed my shins, roots tightened, thornless but deliberate. She pressed a rusted button into my hand. The one from my childhood denim jacket. Lost, when? Leaves rustled inside the tent. Dry, papery. Too many. Almost time, she said. And this time, mice? Mouth moved too, synced. Her breath smelled of clay. Of the hole behind the barn where I buried the rabbit. The tent flap tore. Wind slithered in, carrying a thin, familiar wail. Not the wind. Me. 8 years old, screaming from the bottom of the well. The button's edges bit my palm. I knew that iron taste. It wasn't rust. Blood, old and mine. My knees sank into the tent floor, but the ground felt wrong now. Spongy, fermenting. Her fingernails were crescent moons of dirt. I couldn't tell anymore who was pulling whom. The roots under us writhed, twining our ankles together. Symbiotic. The third shadow bent closer. No face. Just pressure, ancient and patient. My blisters burst. Beetles skittered down my arm, iridescent shells glinting wrong colors. Uviolent, bruise, green. She peeled back her overall strap. A scar I'd forgotten pulsed on my own shoulder, jagged. From the well's crumbling bricks, the wailing grew textured words. Horror crystallized. Not a scream trapped in the past, a plea trapped in Mick. The beetles finished their web. It shimmered, wet. A mouth. A door. The girl pressed her forehead to mine. Cold sank into vertebrae, blooming into clarity. The well swallowed us both, without a sound. Morning found an empty tent, flaps stirring in a scentless breeze. Only a single beetle remained, circling a damp spot on the floor endlessly, carving no trace.